Hey everybody, this is Patrick from Sasquatch in the Wild, and we're going to talk about a revisit to Site A. We hit that area religiously for many years, and we missed it this year because my schedule changed to 100%. So hopefully we can hit it in 2025. Spend some time out there. I'd like to spend 3 days out there. Yeah, 3 days would be good. But when I arrived, as a recap, Jim got there on a Monday, and he had a wood knock and he had a whoop right away. And he responded right away, and he got nothing in return right away. When I arrived, now he had camped. He set up his tent where I set up my tent where, and I had all this crazy activity. So I put my tent over where I think his tent was, and when I set up my tent, I was going back and forth from my car to the tent, and I don't recall us actually hearing anything right away. In fact, I don't remember hearing anything except for one weird thing. I had set up a trail camera, and I went over to a pine tree, and I'm going to put the picture in one of these two spots. But I've set up a trail camera in a pine tree. Now, there's do's and don'ts with trail cameras, and I don't care about what Sasquatch can see and what they can't see, because I really don't care, and I don't think they care either. They may take notice to it, but a trail camera, I think, has a different thing to it versus what the standard people think about. But with the trail camera, when I set it up inside the tree, if you put it anywhere near branches like I did, every little movement of wind to a branch triggers it. Bang, right away. Video, picture, picture, picture. Video, picture, picture, picture. So if you're going to put it in a tree, make sure that there's branches that are up here away from it and down here away from it, so it doesn't trigger all day long or all night long. And it triggered all the time. And we had all kinds of footage of me going back and forth. There were moments when it was absolutely necessary. I'm glad that it did trigger. The video didn't do justice whatsoever. You really couldn't see. You could see the tent, and you could see me get out a few times and look at this thing because I was having activity. But when I first got there, and Jim was talking about it, and he goes, dude, I don't know. I think they're gone. And I said, Jim, they're not gone. I guarantee you they're not gone. And he's like, how do you know? I said, I just know. I know they're here. They're always here. So I set up the box. Now, I took the box that the trail camera came in, and I punctured a series of holes in it. And I put I think it was like 4 holes. And I pushed a bungee cord in it. So it was hanging on. The hooks were on either side. And I put 2 on the bottom, or 2 holes on the bottom, fed a bungee cord through, 2 holes on top, and fed the bungee cord through. Walked over to a tree, strapped it around, hooked it. Now, they don't know the difference between a box and a trail cam. They just don't. So I spent little time programming the one in the pine tree. I spent more time doing this. Boop, 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 boop. Walked away. I got about 10 feet from that box, and I heard a rock flew across from the forest where we were at, across and into, and hit that box hard. And I spun around, and Jim said, what was that? And I said, that was a rock. And I ran back over to that tree to where that box was, and it was indented. And I looked down, and there was this rock. This rock was like hand size. I mean, it wasn't rounded. This thing was a flat, weird rock, and I even saw it come flying past, but it missed me and hit the rock, or hit the box on the tree. And I have a picture of that thing, and I'll post it again on one of these 2 spots. I laughed so hard. I walked back up to that box and went boop, and I went boop, 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 boop. And I said, perfect. And I walked away. No more rocks were thrown. Now, I thought that was crazy because and Jim said, where'd it come from? I said, it came from the series of trees that are just beyond where Mike's tent was and my tent was. There was this thick area of pine trees. That's where it came from. It shot through that and it hit the box square perfectly. Perfect hit. And I was like, damn, that was crazy. So we just kind of explored a little bit around it. We hiked around the area a little bit and kind of came back. Now, I want to say, I brought my drone that year. I want to say I brought it. I know I brought it and I flew. Oh yeah, I did. I think I did. Yeah, we were there so many times. I have to think about when I brought that drone. I want to say it was then, but it may have been 2019. Because there was something happened with that drone, and it was really kind of cool because I caught something weird up on the mountain. Got my stuff in there. I had my cot on one side. I set up a secondary cot, and I've had my cameras and stuff on it. And I'm right next to a trail. It goes towards. I'm across from. I'm going to put a picture up here and kind of describe where my tent was. But again, I'm right next to the fire ring. And on the reverse side of that fire ring, if you watch the original video, I show a picture, and it shows Jeff Yelix's tent right on the reverse side of that fire ring. And there's a tree here, a fire ring, and then his tent was just offset. And my tent is now where Jim's tent was. So the first night, um, we talk. We're eating our dinner and stuff, and we're thinking about what's going to happen. It's getting kind of dark, and I don't know how late we stayed up. I don't even think we had a fire because in that area, no, we didn't, because in that area you could smell all the fires that were burning in the area. All that stinky smoke was blowing around, and oh god, and I was breathing it in. I didn't like it. I was like, oh, this sucks. I wasn't happy about it. Jim, he was like, oh yeah, it just stinks. He didn't know how long he wanted to stay there because he had already been there Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and I arrived on Wednesday, and we were gonna stay until like Sunday, but he decided he wasn't going to do Sunday. We were wavering on Friday or Saturday when we were going to return back. And I didn't want to just go out there for a day and just turn around and go back, in which case I would spend, a few days alone if I had to there. But I go into my tent. He goes into his, I go into mine. And I made sure all of my vents were open. Every single vent was open. Even though the smoke was out there, it was still warm, and you had to have airflow going through. And in my tent, it wasn't so bad. It was okay. So all the vents were open. My 3 doors were shut, and I'm getting into my sleeping bag, and I'm laying there, just all kind of relaxing, just kind of listening. And I can hear the wind blowing, and that usually will put me out fairly quickly. It didn't take very long. Down the trail, I hear, and he goes, and he slides right outside my tent. So I'm like, what the hell? And so I can hear Jim over there snoring away, and I'm just like, what the hell? And I hear my zippers, and my zippers, for whatever reason, start to go bzzz. Now my vents are open, they're like this. So there's 2 zippers. There's a zipper on top, a zipper in the middle. If you close the zipper in the middle, it closes that. If you close the outside zipper, it closes like this, right? So it's sealed, completely sealed. Whoever's outside just closed the outside zipper and the inside zipper first. I saw it do this, and then I heard it kind of close, and I could see it kind of pitch funny on this side. I was like, what? I'm like, what the hell? And there's just enough ambient light in my tent that I can see things still. And I'm just like, what the hell's going on? And that vent closes. And then I hear chick, 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 and I'm kind of following the footsteps over to my next vent. And that vent slowly closes and closes. And I'm like, what the hell? And it's going around. It goes around behind me, and I can hear that vent close and this vent. And I was like, no, don't close the damn vent. And it walks around to the other side, on the opposite side of the vestibule, and it closes that. So it's closed. And I'm like, oh, this sucks. So I'm just sitting there watching, and out of nowhere, that first vent unzips. And it's like, zzz, and what I see is this. I hear the zippers twice, and then I see it go like zzz, and it forms a triangle. So what I see is an eye. And it's looking, and it stops, it sees me, it's looking right up at me. And I'm like, oh, God, is that screwed up? So I unzip I unzip my sleeping bag, get out, and I'm just looking at this eye looking right back up at me, just staring at me, and I'm like, yeah, we're not doing that. We're not doing that today. We're not doing that. So I got up, put on my shoes, and I walk outside. I unzip the doors, go out, and I walk around the tent, and I was like, hell no. And I open up all the vents, walk around, open up those vents, walk around, open up that vent, walk around, open up that vent. Get in, make sure it's all tight. I can walk back around to the front and go back inside. I get all nestled. I just sit. I decided, you know what, I'm just going to sit on my cot. And I hear, and wherever he's at, he's just right up in the woods. And I'm like, oh, and I hear, there's no flashlights. There's nothing going on. Now, if this is a person, they're using night vision, because there's no flashlights whatsoever being shown. There's no lights, no nothing. And I'm just sitting there going, what the bloody hell? So I can hear zzz, zzz, and that vent is closing down. I'm like, you little, and he goes down, down. It goes to the next one, down, down, and he closes that vent, that vent, that vent, that vent. And he comes walking back around, and he stops, and again, zzz, and he pulls it, and he looks back in. I'm like, dude, you gotta quit. And I was like, you gotta stop this. And so I got up, and I done zipped my tent, and he went, he ran back into the woods. I walked around outside. I was like, what? And I'm saying, what are you doing? You got to knock that off. So I reset my tent or that vent. I reset that vent, the vent over here, and the vent over here. I'm just like, I go walk back inside my tent to seal everything back up. The minute I go walking to the cot, I can hear tick, 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 tick. He's already here. He is so close to me that it's not even funny. He's not walking distance. He's just walking probably about 15, 20 feet, and he's in the trees. He's the tree. You can't really see the trees outside. I can see a little bit because I got things that are glowing inside the tent. Recording devices are running, and I'm making noise. And I was hoping that the video camera on the tree that was facing my tent was catching this activity. But he was just outside of the range of the video camera, and the camera part of it should have caught it, but it didn't. You don't. The first few times I saw it, I swore there was something there. When I reviewed the videos and the pictures and stuff all over again, I didn't see it. But he walked around the tent, he closed all the vents, got to that first vent, and he just started looking. I said, "That's it." So I got down on my hands and knees, and I got up like this. What you looking at, dude? And I just stared at him. I was looking at his eyes. I could see this one eye really well, and he was staring right back at me. I was like, I'm not coming out now, but I'm going to stare at you just as long. And he just sat there. I could hear him breathing, and all I'm seeing is this, looking through the mesh and looking straight at me. And I'm just like, okay. When he gets up, I actually see this. I can see partial face and a nose and like a little bit of light coming off of him. He gets back, he hikes up the trail. I'm like, what's next? What is possibly next that's going to happen tonight? I mean, what else could it be, you know? So I'm listening quietly. Again, I can hear Jim way off in the distance. You know, he's over there. He's snoring away. I'm like, okay, Jim can't hear any of this stuff. So I'm just kind of hanging out and waiting. Now, when we set up the tent, I did a couple of things. I hung a tambourine, and the tambourine, you know, if you shake it, it makes noise, right? But if you spin it and you spin the cymbals, they'll make this sound. Well, I strung up I used some cording, and I tied this thing off, so this thing was kind of hanging down. And at some point, I'm hearing things walking past the tent. I'm just like, what is that? What's that sound? And out of nowhere, I hear. I'm like, what in the hell is that sound? What is that? And I was like, and that's when I realized, oh my God, that's the tambourine. They're not shaking it. They're spinning the cymbals. Something is striking the cymbals, causing them to spin. It's the only way it's going to work. Now, could it be a bear? Sure, it could be a bear that's striking that. But I've never seen bears in this area. And I don't even see the signs of a bear in that area. No, that's not true. We did find poop. But I'm not sure if that was actually bear scat or if that's something else. Or bear poop. But something was striking that. And I thought that was a little bizarre. I didn't hear clunking sounds of hooves, so that's not it. And usually, you know, if a bear comes up to your tent, it makes noise. You hear it. You hear the sound as it's coming in. Didn't hear it. It was just silence. All kinds of quietness outside of Jim over there, and the wind blowing around. And I see the vent. I actually end up going out again because I had to pee. But I went outside and I unzipped everything, got everything reset again, came back in. And a few minutes later, again, I hear the sound, and I'm just like, what's going on outside? So I'm sitting there just kind of listening to that sound, and I hear something walking up to the tent, and it sits down right by that vent. And I'm like, what is that? And so I'm just kind of waiting, listening intently to whatever this is. And I see what looks like two little dimes, two tiny, they're about like this big. So two dime-sized objects appear. Like, a dime, or however big a dime is. Two dimes pop up and boink, they're right inside that vent. And I'm like, what is that? So I take my flashlight and went, and I shot it right at the thing. And it looked like silvery looking, round silvery dots looking straight at me. I'm like, what? And so I got down on my hands and knees, crawled up to it, and I was looking at it. And what I saw looked like let's see if I can do it this way. Imagine this is the top of a head on the inside of my fingers here. And you have these two little round dots or circles for eyes. And what I'm seeing is this, okay? Little head, little eyes looking in at me. And I was like, oh. And that's when I realized I was looking at a juvenile, a wee squirt of a baby. The head was only about this big, and I could see its eyes, which were about the size of dimes, back at me. And I turned off the flashlight. I said, I'm sorry, dude, I didn't mean to hit you with the eye or hit you with the flashlight. And he was like, blink, blink, blink. And he just looked at me, and I was like, you're cool looking. And I could see his little forehead. I could see where his eyes were, and I could see his partial nose and his little bit of his upper lip. And he was just... So I'm going to stop this video, and I'll come back on Wednesday. This should have been Sunday's video, so I will post another video on Wednesday talking about the other things that happened. Again, my name is Patrick. I hope you're enjoying this journey, and I'll talk to you soon.